Testing, 1, 2, 3. Today's date is January 18th, right? 1994. Okay. First of all, I just wanted to get a verbal consent saying that you're agreeing to participate in the project and that you're granting the museum permission to use your interview as part of their historical collection.
Okay.
So first of all, I wanted to get your
Is
name.
the microphone my way?
Yeah.
Is that right up there on top?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll just leave it up right there.
Okay.
Okay. So first of all, I wanted to get your name and age and also the spelling of your name since I'm going to be typing. So.
Well, my name is Charles Edward Johnson, better known as Chuck Johnson by trade. Charles, E for Edward, Johnsson.
And what is your occupation?
Well, I own a television station on cable here in Oakland, Channel 37.
And how long has Soulbeat?
We've been on the air going on 17 years.
Where are you originally from?
Kansas City, Missouri. Actually born in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
And how long have you been living in the Bay Area?
Well, 17 years.
Oh, well, you moved out here and just started the station as soon as you got out here?
Well, I saw there was an opportunity for this type of TV in a city, TV station in a city like this. And with the amount of blacks that are populated the city. And it made sense to look at the possibility of doing a full-time TV station. We started out testing the market from just a 5-day-a-week show on Channel 20. And then we obtained a channel on cable here in Oakland, which was teleprompter cable at the time. And then moved, picked up a station in San Francisco, Channel 15, and we found that, we couldn't get a market over there, can't pinpoint a market over there, because people were all scattered out, and just the underprivileged lived in a certain area like Hunters Point, or the Visadero, something like that. So, anyway, then I went on Channel 26, which was over the air, which we did a all-day Sunday program, about 4 hours. We also picked up a channel in Sacramento, Channel 31, which is over the air. And we wanted to try every market so we'll know which one would be the best for our enterprise, our commercial enterprise of television. And we found Oakland was the best market. Hope I explained it for you.
Sure did. Where were you living? And I understand you were operating Soulbeat out of your home. And so where were you living when the fire took place? What was the exact address?
182 Caldecott Lane in the Parkwoods Apartments complex.
And how long had you been living there?
For about 5 years.
And can you tell me about the day of the fire? Were you there and how it happened? And
well, what happened was, let's see, that happened on a Sunday morning. Well, that evening, we went and...
Excuse me, hi. Can I bother you?
So you're going to tell me about the day of the fire. You had started off saying the evening prior to that.
Okay, the evening prior to that, I was prepared to stay in and enjoy a nice, quiet evening. I had my masseuse over to give me a nice massage rather, and I was feeling real good about it, and didn't have a care in the world about anything happening. It was nice weather outside. I heard coming up on the elevator about there was some smoke over on the side of the hill, and that the fire department had got it out, and so, hey, we figured that the Parkwood was beyond the reach of fire, beyond the reach of really anything, because it's been there so long, and we figured it was going to be there for another X amount of years. Well, anyway, the next morning I was getting up to go to breakfast around say about 10 something, about 9:30. I rolled out of the out of the garage of my building, approached the guard gate, because they have a guard gate right there, and as they're going out, I stopped and I asked the guard, what about that little smoke up on the hill, because I saw it started up again. And he said, well, it's nothing really to be worried about, because the fire department is up there at the top of the hill, and you can see them over there. They're putting water on it, and it should be out. And I said, okay, then, are you sure we shouldn't be worried about this? And he said, oh, no, nothing. And so I got on down the freeway, and I started thinking. I said, that fire there didn't look like it was so easy to put out, what they were trying to put out. So I turned around and returned up to the entrance of the Parkwood. At the time, the fire had spread to quite a bit of the upper greenery, the forest up there that is surrounding Parkwoods, but it was just a portion. By the time I parked my car, took the elevator up to the penthouse, which I occupied. I have on one side my living quarters, and the other penthouse is where I had my little office where I could work at home. And that's where I housed my my vast library that I have, music library and archives of a lot of various things we had taped in Oakland's history. People are not alive anymore. We had on tape. And also some classic films of my early childhood on 8mm film, and plus my son from infancy on up to grown man, and I had all of those films and a lot of personal, valuable things that couldn't be replaced.
And your studio,
Yeah.
where you were broadcasting, was there as well?
Yeah, well, we're a production studio. We had 4 of them because we were broadcasting in Houston, Atlanta, we were in Philadelphia, New York, Detroit, and we had really established our network across the country,
But
going into various cities, and we were producing those programs up there because that's what we had the equipment all set up there, and then we would do certain interviews up there. When entertainers would come in, they would come up to the penthouse and be interviewed and whatever. So we used it for a lot of various things there, which also was my office. And we had just, in one of the rooms, we have about over 8 rooms up there, and it's on top of the building, in Building 183. One of the rooms we just fixed up because we got the opportunity to start a satellite radio station, and I just put in all brand new equipment for the satellite radio, and we were waiting for the telephone company to install our broadcast line, which was going to go from our location there to the uplink site in San Francisco. And we were practicing and getting the production tapes ready to start that program off. That was one of the things we wanted to do there. And so, as I was going up to my apartment there, I picked up my Handycam. I said, well, let me get this on film because this is going to be quite interesting for the archives. And again, not thinking that the fire was going to jump over the fence onto us. By the time I got out there, it had spread about half of the area around the complex, and it was continuing to grow. And so I took my camera and I videotaped it. Unfortunately, someone used my camera the day before and didn't charge up my batteries, and so I had to try to stick it in electricity. And so I was able to get um, the footage, a lot of footage up there, and then the police was saying, "Hey, you, get out of there, everybody has to evacuate now. You only have a minute before this is going to be upon you. And so a minute, I said, wait a minute. And so I got in there and I started thinking, what would I take? Of all of the things I have, what would I take? And I wasn't really thinking that well. You see a crisis or something like that come upon you. Well, just the other day, I had put all of the newspaper clippings of my life and things I'd accomplished, things I've done, in one box because I was going to sort it out. And so I was thinking about excuse me, getting ready to write a book on my life, because I've had a lot of interesting things to happen in my life, a lot of firsts. I've made history in communication, media, and so I thought that's what I have to take, because I can't replace those clippings and about my life to document that I actually did these things. So I grabbed that one box, and then something told me, from my mind flicked back, flashback to a movie I'd just seen recently called Backdraft. There's a movie almost similar to what was going on around me. And while I was thinking of, what I was going to do next, the fire had already jumped up on my roof and was beating at my window, just like a human would be beating at your window. Let me in, like. And I said, okay, well, my mind told me to get my leather jacket, my leather hat on, and then took the box and with my handy cam, and I headed for the exit door, and the big steel exit door. So I got in it, and no sooner as I closed it, and I got about halfway down the step, everything exploded up there. With a big boom, boom, right on top. And I took off, started running down the steps. And I got to the third, see, we were on the penthouse was on the 4th floor. And so when I got down to, the 3rd floor, that exploded. Got down to the 2nd floor, that went up. And I was going down the steps, and I got down to the entrance of the exit stairs, and this lady and her child was in there. They was just petrified. She was, and the kid was just hollering, and like frozen, didn't know what to do. So what I did was I opened the door, and it was just like we were right in the middle of hell, if you would know what hell would look like, or atomic bomb blast. It was fire was coming all directions. It was like rain, from the pines was exploding and shooting everywhere. And so I said, well, this is the only way, because this thing had already come down this far, and I can see the rocks and everything started to come tumbling down. I grabbed her real quick. I said, well, and I set in my box, and I had to open the lobby door, go around and open the lobby door, and I had one chance to open that lobby door because there was a great big ball of fire rolling down, and I said, I got to make it work. I get ready to stick the key, and then I dropped it. And I said, oh, no. And I said, I only got a second to pick up and make sure I got the right key. I was only on impulse. And I reached out and got the right key, stuck it in there, and was lucky it was right. And I opened the right key, and I opened the door, and I pushed her and the kid inside. Then I grabbed my box of papers and got inside, and this big fire rolled past, boom, and burned up a car. It was like it was just picking cars at random, like you would have a car that was burnt, and on the other side another car that wasn't burnt, like it was almost picking what it wanted to pick, select, so. But anyway, after I got inside the lobby, it was, like nothing ever happened in there. Then see that you got to go through the lobby to get to the garage to get to my car, and it was parked inside the garage. And so I went. I don't know where she ran. She's like a bat out of hell. And so I got in my car, and I said, well, I don't know how far this car was going to get me, because I noticed, like you see Hollywood, how they explode the gas tanks and make it look like, hey, big bomb, dynamite, or whatever. And so I went down, got out of the garage, and I saw a line of cars up, and I said, oh, no, I can't be in no line. It was some cop that was holding up the line to try to get a fire truck through, and these people was trying to get out of that thing, and I just went around this car, and just as I was speeding around, here this lady was up beating on cars trying to get in. This old, she was black, elderly, and had an infant and a daughter, and nobody would let her in. And so I stopped and opened the car, and I said, get on in, And so I shot around the police. I said, well, you're going to have to give me a ticket on this one or whatever, because I'm saving my life, because the fire was right on my trunk, end of my trunk. And a big ball of fire was rolling out, boom, 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 like that. And it was really something. And by the way, they used that footage of me coming out of the entrance of that place on that movie they had, that ABC movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
when they recreated the fire
Yeah,
storm?
Because it was Channel 2 footage they used, and that was one of them. Saw me, I picked it out and just copied it, videotaped it, They have, and I said, that's me, there I am. So anyway, I got him on the outside, and so I pulled on the side of the road to phone in with my mobile phone, call the station so I can put it on the air live and let people know what's coming their way. And I was up there going on the air live and talking to the people and telling them, hey, it's just a disaster here, and Al Ballard is one another of my announcers, he lived in the complex too, and he had just took his little boy down to the supermarket to get something to eat or whatever, and he didn't take, that's Al Ballard there, he didn't take anything with him. He had some tennis shorts on or whatever, and the money he had to spend, and I called him on his portable phone. I said, "Ain't no use of coming back to the Parkwoods. There's nothing here." He said, "What you mean there's nothing here?" So he got up, and everything was burnt, was around Bati, So I told him, meet us over to the TV station. But
where was the TV station at this point?
40th and Foothill.
Okay.
So see, that didn't burn up because that was there. We still had the music videos. It was on our music reel, and we had the commercials and all that was all there, you see. And some of my equipment was still over there because we had a telethon just the other night for Mother Right to feed the homeless. And here I am the next night, homeless myself, didn't have a place to go. But as we were parked on the side of the road, here come a big ball of fire that leaped the fence and leaped the freeway over the cars and burned the other side of the freeway. It was a sight that, oh boy, it was really something to remember. You see it so vividly, when you think back on it. Something you'll never forget. Went down to the TV station. We both went on the air, and it was sort of hard to keep our composure because of the fact that here we have lost everything there, and still here we are there talking to the people, telling them, like what to do and how to go about it, and to evacuate, the place. And so it really turned out to be something. Okay. So it turned out to be a day that I wouldn't forget. Any more questions? Okay, what other questions?
Okay, I'll make it real quick.
No, that's all right. Just go ahead.
Okay. I wanted to also, you mentioned a little bit about what you lost in the fire, but were you insured, and how much would you estimate did you lose financially?
Well, the situation, here's what happened with us on that. We had been insured with a company that was charging us too much money, and we couldn't afford that insurance that we had, and so we said, well, we'll just let it run for a few months, and okay, pause.
Okay. You decided with the insurance that you were going to let it run a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Well, and so we had let lapse, and while we were investigating another insurance company which was more reasonable, we hadn't signed the papers yet on that. We only had a few things that was insured. one editing room that we had insurance on. The equipment that was up to date, and so we wasn't insured.
Wow. So how much did you lose financially?
Well, we lost over about $1 million worth of property, clothes, equipment, and library, and it could be estimated more than that, because at first they were saying it was $2.5 million, but I said it's around a good hard million. That it was. And so the FEMA came in and said, well, we could only go, our limit is $200,000, so I had to take that loss. But they never, as yet, been able to give me that $200,000, because they switched over to SBA, and I ran into the most prejudiced people over there at SBA. And when they found out I was black, then they tried to give.
What is SBA?
SBA, Small Business Administration, over in Sacramento, where the disaster division was located. And they tried to find all kind of things that was wrong. They just couldn't see that I had that much money invested in equipment. They figured it was a rip-off. And after we showing all kind of documented evidence that we had this and whatever, they dug up an old regulation saying that they couldn't loan to a broadcast media. And so anyway, so we never did get the money from them.
Wow. Well, in terms of, I've been living in the Bay Area for 5 years, so I can't claim to know too much of the history of Soulbeat, but I've read in the news from time to time that maybe you might have gone off there maybe a couple days or whatever. How devastating was this in terms of all your struggling trying to keep the station going and trying to grow? How big of a setback was the fire for you?
Well, it was quite a setback, because I had to regroup, had to start like all over again, and with my businesses, and that people were advertising with us, and try to obtain more programming, music, and whatever, and still continue to shoot, so we start building up another library. But we managed to get back on track as far as the business, because I said it didn't burn up where we broadcast live from, is brought on our production studio.
How's it been for you personally, trying to, I've spoken to a lot of different people who have talked about, a sense of loss, because, this is your home as well, and you have all your possessions, and you talk about all your mementos throughout, your own life. How is it personally for you?
Okay, well, what happened was that night, I didn't have no place to go. A good friend of mine, Leonard Scott, owner of Scotty's Check Cashing, said, you can come over and stay with me, and I got a big house and whatever, and so I stayed there for 2 nights, and it just began to really tear me up inside, because here I'm looking around at his possessions, knowing that all my worldly possession was gone, and that's something which really was mentally depressing. And so what I had to do was to analyze my situation, because I didn't want to have to go to any site, shrink or something, to figure out what my problem or dilemma was. I took off and went to Reno, and I tried to figure it all out, sort it all out, and what I needed. And what really got me, that I couldn't rest and hardly sleep in his place, but I was able to sleep when I was in the hotel room, because I wasn't with anybody around, anybody had the property. So I said, that's what I have to do. I got to start building my nest back up, my home and my life. And so that's when I went out looking for another place that would be similar in quality as the Parkwoods, and I ran across the place I have here, the Park Bellevue Towers. And then I started to I started looking. I forgot that I had another studio in Berkeley that we had channel that was going to Berkeley and Richmond. I had furniture in it. I just got new furniture to set up the studio in that area, and so the dining room side and the couch and the chairs and all that was all set up. And I said, "Well, gee, that's my start." So I got all of that stuff. I moved it over here, and so I had all of that. The only thing I had to do was get me a bed. So I got the bed, and and then I was back running again.
How soon was this after the fire?
Oh, about the next week.
Wow.
You know, next week I said I'm going to get my life back going again. I'm not going to sit around and mope around. And so I got it all going.
Can you talk a little bit more detail? You were talking about some of the stuff you lost, like some of the film footage. You were talking about historical moments.
Well,
just to try and get a sense of how,
Well, if you look at, like I said, right there, my wall is somewhat bare, but I had all kind of plaques, all kind of, excuse me, trophies, and all kind of photos. The only reason why I have these pictures here because they were at the studio, and I was able to save a lot of the classic blow-ups, of my life, and they were able to be saved, and that and I started finding, that I was able to start recouping a lot of various items, like even tapes, because I remembered that I gave copies to various people of certain important tapes. So I started rounding up those people and said, "Let me use your tape so I can copy the tapes and whatever." A lot of pieces of equipment, personal equipment. Like I have a big projection TV, well, I said, I can get me another one. So in fact, I got a deal on another one, was just as good or better than one I had. And so after I got my clothes because a couple of my advertisers was clothing stores, and they let me go there and pick what I want, in the place. So I was able to get my wardrobe back together. And so I got the clothes, and I got all the other essential stuff, but a lot of gadgets that I had, mementos, watches. I even had a television watch that you could see. It was only 500 of those made, but I had one of them. In fact, one of them was used in one of the James Bond movies. And I had other little portable recorders and so many items, and then plus I had my office was up there too, and all of my financial statements, records, and everything had to do with bills and things. All but burned up in smoke. So, and one thing that I forgot to get was my passport and other things, which I thought about later, but I knew those, So just about now, everything that I've lost, except some of the things that couldn't be replaced, I've got them back again.
such as photographs and family members.
And then plus I was able to get duplicates of a lot of photos, because I remember when I would take pictures, I would send some to my mother. And so I went to Kansas City. Here she had all the pictures I thought was all burned up, all the classic pictures of my life. And I was able to get a lot of those photos and things back. And so that's about what else.
Well, the other thing that a lot of people talk to me about is they're just really overwhelmed by the amount of community and support from friends after the fire, like you talked about, the people wanting to put you up, your friends wanting to put you up in their homes, and people giving you clothes. And so I wanted, you to talk a little bit about that, whether you experienced that and to what degree.
Well, see, what I had to be very careful what friends and what obligations I had to make when I was going through that, because a lot of people want to do things for me. The only reason why they want to do it for their own ulterior motives, and I had to be very selective on who I decide to help me. You see, and I did, and it worked out all right. You see, and then plus, you had a lot of the little social things. Like Red Cross and People, they had some extra little pocket change money for you, but that's something I really didn't look at getting. I got maybe something just to help at that particular time, you know, but financially I was back in the run because I had made another collection. In fact, I had some money that was burned up too. You know, like one fellow had a safe, not me, but I had a safe that had about $25,000 in cash, and all the money got burned up in the safe because the fire was so hot. You're looking at 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit. That's enough to cremate you if it gets close to you. And see, one reason why I took the leather jacket and the hat is because if you'd have took cloth, that cloth would have burned up, because that's what I learned from the movie. The leather is just like another layer of skin, and the fire just bounced off of it. And I got out with running through fire and everything else without not one burn.
How do you think the fire has changed you in terms of how you're doing stuff now? You know, you were very lucky in the fact that you were able to get copies of stuff, because I know I spoke to one couple who were trying to find, get copies of their wedding picture 20-odd years ago, and they're having a hard time getting that. But is there anything that you've learned from that whole situation, whether it's getting insurance or whatever, that now you're doing differently because you have a different, you know that, sometimes we take life for granted and our things for granted.
Well, you have to look at every time, something happens in the world, if you don't pay attention to what's happening around, then you won't learn anything. But if you really pay attention, the way things happen around you, and then you can put it in your memory, then you know that if something like that ever happens again, some of the do's and don'ts, and making your decision, what you do, how you go about it. Because a lot of people got burned up trying to go and get things that they could replace, not thinking, what is replaceable and what's not. And you learn this from having the experience. I know that I will never live in an area that have trees around it anymore. After seeing those trees almost kill me when the fire got to them. That's one thing I'll never do. I'll never, I'll be very hesitant in getting a home again. I've had several nice homes in my life, but not one that you look at how fire could just come and just eat you up, even, worse than the apartment complex.
So you owned the place and you owned the penthouse? Or
No, I didn't. I was just leasing that, But I'm saying for a house. But I had seen what happened is before I had moved to the Parkwoods was because I was in a fire up on Buckingham, where the whole fire started was near the area where I had my house, right up on Buckingham, right at the top of that hill. And I moved out of there because of the fire situation I was in.
Could you tell me a little bit about that? I'm curious. I've only come across one person who's been in a fire before.
Yeah, well, this was a situation where having problems with cable Oakland, and we were on the air with a live show. Paul Fuller had a program called, I forgot, it was a talk program, and this two people from over at Cable Oakland was sitting there watching the program, and the one the white fellow was a supervisor in charge of cable leasing, and the other was a fellow who used to work for me, and so they thought they had psyched him up to try to do something against me, whatever. And they saw the ideal time to do it because we were all live on TV with a special. And they called up the phone, and we got into an argument with the host. And then I had to go there and tell them, it's not the time and place to discuss what they wanted to talk about. And so it was the same night that the music awards was on. And I went on the air to see how many people were still watching Soulbeat with ABC Music Award. And the phone was lit up, and I guess they saw me on TV, and I figured that's their time that they can do something to me. So the white boy went and got, I guess they were drinking gin. They took the bottle and went and put some gas in it and went up to my house on top of the hill there, and he gave it to the brother, say, hey, you go ahead and throw it over there at his house, because he keeps all of his equipment and stuff downstairs and the studio. So he was getting ready to do it, and he said, no, I'm not going to do it, I'm not going to do it. He ran, jumped back in the car. And the white boy, he went ahead and I said, well, okay, I'm going to go. And he ran over there and threw the Molotov cocktail at my house in the garage, you know. And when I was leaving the studio, you know, going back home, I saw the firemen's fire trucks at the top of the hill. I said, I wonder whose house is going to burn. And a black fireman said, hey, aren't you Chuck Johnson? Hey, your house is on fire? I thought he was lying. You know, I thought he was just going, not my house on fire. And I said, your house is on fire. You got pictures going up your stairwell? Oh, no. You know, and I shot on up there and come to find out, you know, he had, you know, firebombed my house, you know.
So the whole house burned or just
no, it didn't burn, just that area burned. It could have went, but the neighbors jumped out there with hoses, because if one go, the rest of them will go up there, you know. So that's why they went up and tried to put it out, and they called the fire department. If they hadn't went out there with their hose to hose it down, you know, they would have burned up. And so they found the bottle, you know, and gas. And so I just thought who would, and I thought the right persons, you know. So they went and found them, arrested them, and come to find out that, well, after going through court and everything else about it, well, the judge then handed a suspended sentence, and the only thing he had to do was pay about $100 a month for 2 years, and on top of that, which was a real venture, Cable Oakland hired him back. So it's almost, you know, like 2 and 2,
yeah.
you know, like they were behind it, and he became Employer of the Month next month. So all this was documented, court record and whatever. But that's the first, and I said, well, I just don't want to live up in this no more when somebody come up there and throw a bomb and burn you out, because I wouldn't be able to sleep easy in that house, you know, after that. So that's when I saw over the hill, look right down the hill, that was the Parkwoods. And I said, hey, that's the place, that's where I moved my operation to.
Do you have any concern about living up there? You're on the 25th floor, and, you know, you have to go down the stairs, it's 25 flights, or, you know, you have any concern,
I did at one time, going down, because they had a fire, the elevators were stuck, something happened, you know, whatever, and so I was on my way to go to the jazz festival, and what happened was, I said I was going to try to walk down the steps, you know. Boy, I tell you, my legs have never been the same after that, really. But excuse me. But still, up here, you know, I talked to some of the older tenants, and when they had the big earthquake, this building just rocked back and forth. Nothing happened to it. Didn't put any cracks in it, so it was real well-engineered building here. So I said, okay, fine. And then it's really safe up here, you know. It's you leave the doors unlocked, you don't have to worry about somebody breaking in your place, because you got security guards at the front door. So it's a nice, wholesome place.
Is there anything else you'd like to add, or that I didn't talk about?
Well, the only thing I'm saying is, like, we have been operating here going on 17 years on TV, and tried to be a role model for our community and the world, because we're the only black-owned television station such as ours in the whole country. The only other one is in WGPR in Detroit, which we also play our Soulbeat programs on. And but what we're trying to use this for is to make sure that we have a voice, and that's why I've been trying to keep it together, because I've had so many obstacles thrown at me, in front of me, to get me to let it go. So what they did, even with that firebombing, they've thrown everything at me. So I guess they figured the last thing was that, well, the only way to move them out, I have to hang myself. And they figured their old computer there said, okay, here's the average, knowledge of a black man of what's going to trip him up. Okay, he's going to become a drunk, a dope addict. He's going to have women problems and have this. He's going to have bad health. He's going to have a heart attack. And he's going to have such an ego problem that he's not going to be able to do the commercials and get to work, be on time and put the programs on. And the people were not going to continue to advertise. These are all the things they had in the back head for me to fail. And I have been able to surpass them for 17 years. You know how many businesses have come and gone in that period of time. But I managed to hold this on by knowing how to run and operate a commercial television station, not a non-commercial television station. Then that's one thing blacks have to understand, that they've been given opportunity to work in non-commercial TV or work on an internship doing one thing, but not learning where the accounting department is, what the sales department is like, what is the management, so that they can get in and learn what it's all about, making money and doing the commercial thing, because that's what it's all about. Not getting grants, not getting somebody to give you some money, but actually working for it. Everybody has an idea of what they think a program should be, but they forget that their knowledge is not the knowledge of putting together a budget of how much it costs to do this program, you see, and how much money can be made. Can it get ratings or whatever so that you can sell it? These are something to go right past our people who are in this field. And when the majority of them, they come to me and say, oh, I got the best idea how you can do this, but it just don't work like that. So what we're looking at to stay afloat is possibility of investors to come in. I want good, wholesome investors. I could have took some money a long time ago from people that had their own agenda, and one thing that we cannot do is let it in the hands of people who want to promote their own personal agendas, what they want. But has to keep it more or less straight, well-balanced, so that we can. That's only what kept me in business, not getting an ego trip and doing this, but actually putting a lot of long hours and hard work. Most people think, Chuck is up there partying every night. He's got a chick on every couch, they're having a good time. They see it on TV, the commercial look. But it's not the case. We're back here planning what we're going to do the next day, what we're going to have on the music, what we're going to, and after we work those long hours, the thing you do is go to bed. I don't even go out to parties. I don't go to anywhere. Just because if I go out there, somebody's going to stop me and try to promote their ideas. They don't call on the phone. They wait till you get out there, and so you never have a peace. So that's why what I like to do is go to Reno or Vegas or somewhere where I'm way away from the situation. That's why I can enjoy myself. But we're going to, make it work, and so that's about it.
You're definitely a survivor and a warrior. Thank you.